We were in Florida attending the Space Coast Birding and Wildlife Festival. On our first 2 days, we found some classic Florida bird species and explored some of the best hotspots in the central part of the state. In the early part of our time in Florida, one of the major storylines was the unseasonably cold weather. On this day, that trend would continue with high winds and rain.
Seems less windy, which is good. Still cold and gray, though.
Even though the weather wasn't great, we still wanted to make the most of our day and had one specific target species we wanted to find. Our main order of business today is to get the Florida scrub jay, the only endemic bird species to the state of Florida. Now there's a spot that we've been told is pretty much a guarantee for it, which is always dangerous to be told because then you run the risk of being the one person that didn't get to see them at that location. But it seems like it's a great spot for them. We're gonna grab some food and then get to this location and see if we can get our lifer Florida scrub jay. We got some food and headed to Helen and Alan Crookshank Sanctuary, a place we felt would give us the best chance to add Florida scrub jay to our life lists. We made it to Crookshank Sanctuary, and this is the place where we're supposed to have the best chance at Florida scrub jay. They said just walk in a little bit and you should see them. 99.5% chance, they said.
99.5%.
99.5%. So we're gonna walk in, see if we find any scrub jays. I'm a little worried about the wind still keeping everything down, but we'll see.
This habitat looks perfect. It's that scrubby, kind of thorny stuff that you always see the scrub jays in the photos. So I think, this is absolutely the right place. It's just if the weather's going to keep the birds down or not.
We started walking the paths through the scrubby habitat, but very few birds made themselves known. One that did was a common southern bird species. We just saw a mockingbird sitting up in the scrub, and it was making this high-pitched chirp noise, and I've only heard them do that in cold weather in scrubby habitat for some reason. So I don't know if that's a thing they do in its particular conditions or in a particular habitat, but that's usually the noise I hear them making in these types of situations. Although some mockingbirds were making noise, there were very few birds out and about.
I guarantee this wind is not helping us whatsoever. Everything is kind of getting blown around. You see a yellow rump warbler fly and it just gets pushed by the wind and it goes down and hangs out. There's some flickers flying around, but yeah, I think this is really making it harder to find everything for us here in Florida.
We kept circling around the sanctuary, keeping an eye and ear out for anything that looked or sounded like a jay. Eventually, we heard the raspy noises of our target bird, and then saw it in the distance, perched up. That's a life bird.
That's a life bird. It's nice to get it in this really cool habitat too. On the board.
Getting our lifer looks, but not very close-up looks, we kept walking the trails, but no other jays were showing themselves.
So we've been walking around for a while and we have not seen more than the one scrub jay, which seems uncharacteristic from what we've heard about this place. So we're gonna go back to where we saw that one. Hopefully we can run into a couple more over there.
Eventually, we spotted multiple Florida scrub jays just off the path, and eventually on the path.
We have one of the scrub jays foraging right in front of us here, and they've been being really goofy. Once we found them, we got to see some of their behavior of walking on the path, being in the trees, being on top of the trees. So even though it's not the best weather for them, they still seem to be pretty active once we were able to locate where they were.
We watched the scrub jays as they foraged and moved around, eventually resting on the edge of the scrub, giving us the chance to view them clearly and at close range. We're here hanging out with some Florida scrub jays, the only endemic bird species of Florida, which makes them very special. So we are very excited to see these birds that are actually federally threatened. Unfortunately for this species, they rely on these tracts of land that consist of scrub, and they prefer it below 6.5 feet tall. And if that tract of land gets developed and then separated and fragmented, they don't like to go over anything that's not their preferred habitat, so they'll just hang out in that one specific spot. What's interesting about them as well is that much like other jays such as green jays and brown jays, they actually live in small family groups. After the eggs hatch and the young fledge and become adults, they actually stay with the family and help raise the next generation. The Florida scrub jay is the only endemic Florida bird species, meaning it can't be found living wild anywhere else on the planet except for in the Sunshine State. They have a gray back and body, blue wings, a blue tail, and a blue head. They also have a blue necklace marking, a light gray throat, and a light eyebrow stripe. They look very similar to some other jay species, such as California scrub jay, but are designated as their own separate species. Florida scrub jays reside in oak scrub habitat, which only grows in specific places. This habitat preference has proven to be an issue for these birds, as habitat loss and fragmentation has unfortunately led to the species as a whole being federally threatened. In fact, it's estimated that their breeding population is just 4,000 individuals. Like most jays, the Florida scrub jay eats a wide variety of food items, including small vertebrates, berries, and nuts. They especially like acorns, which they are known to crack open with their bills. They will also cache them in a safe place for later, and even sometimes change locations of cached acorns throughout the year.
So we're gonna head out, but we had an awesome experience with the scrub jays here. If we can do it when the weather's not optimal and it's cloudy and windy, you can come here on a much better day and probably have an even better scrub jay experience, but I can't complain about the views and the experience we had with these birds.
Florida's endemic birds checked off one for one with the Florida scrub jay. Feeling good about our Florida scrub jay experience, we moved on from the sanctuary. This was a really great experience with these Florida scrub jays. The reason that they're so tame is actually twofold. First of all, jays in general are usually curious birds. We've seen it before with California scrub jays, Woodhouse's scrub jays. If they're in an area where there's stuff going on, they're usually kind of curious to check it out. And then the other reason is that they do manage the area. So there are people coming to check on these birds, look at the bands, make sure that they're doing all right. So people do come and entice them in with peanuts. You're not supposed to feed the wildlife here. You don't want the birds to get too used to people. And then the other reason you don't want to feed wildlife is because there is a hefty fine if you get caught. So we did not do any feeding of these birds, even though they were really adorable and made us want to feed them. We did not do it, but very cool experience with these scrub jays. Our next target animal was actually not a bird at all, but still a creature we were extremely excited to see. Now we're doing something we weren't really planning on doing today, but it feels like a must do. We're going to check out the manatees at Blue Spring. And we heard from people that with the weather being cold, they're congregating there right now, and it gets really busy on weekends. So we're going to do this right now, even though we weren't planning on it, and hopefully get our lifer manatees.
Oh yeah, this has been a bucket list animal to see for a while, and I've been in Florida a couple times and never run into one. So it just feels like we gotta strike when the iron's hot before the weekend to just do this, because it's one of the top things on our list.
Blue Springs State Park is located in Orange County on the eastern side of the state. The park has many different recreation options, but what we were there for was to see the crystal clear spring-fed waters and the manatees that inhabit them. The water at Blue Spring is actually quite warm, and as a result, it houses high numbers of manatees when the weather is cold. As soon as we got there, we made our way to the water and got our first looks ever at manatees. It looks like there's a few manatees out here. Oh yeah, look. Oh, you can see a ton of them. Look at that. There's all heading left. You can see the faces breaching out of the water. That's so cool. We moved down the path a bit more, where we encountered stunning numbers and even better views of these gentle manatees.
This is so cool. This is exactly what we wanted. Come to Blue Spring.
The manatees we are looking at right now are called West Indian manatees, and they actually have separate subspecies. So the one we have here is the aptly named Florida subspecies, or the Florida manatee. And if you look closely, you can see that they don't actually have hind legs, and instead they just have a tail that helps them propel through the water. Manatees don't really have any natural predators, although some people think that maybe sharks or alligators or crocodiles could potentially be predators to them, so they don't really have a reason to have to get out of the way very quickly. So that's why you see them just floating around, taking their time, doing their thing. And they also are herbivores, so they're not going to be going out of their way to have to chase anything down. They're not going to be chased by anything else, but that works to their detriment to a degree, because that means that they can't get out of the way quickly when boats come. So one of the biggest issues for manatees are boats coming and then colliding with them, causing a lot of deaths of manatees every year, sadly. The West Indian manatee can be found in the shallow waters of northeastern South America, eastern Mexico, the southern Atlantic coast of the United States, and the Caribbean islands. They are separated into two subspecies, the Florida subspecies and the Antillean subspecies. These large mammals can be found in both freshwater and saltwater, and feed on aquatic plants. They are generally docile and slow-moving, as they have no verified natural predators, as their size keeps them safe from everything other than humans. As a whole, West Indian manatees are listed as threatened, with the Florida subspecies being less at risk of extinction than the Antillean subspecies. Many different threats face manatees, including entanglement in nets and other debris, loss of warm water habitat, and their biggest problem, boat collisions. Fortunately, conservation efforts have helped stabilize the Florida manatee population, but more work is still needed to ensure that these beautiful creatures will be around in the future. They're just loving this water right now because it's so much warmer than the surrounding water, so they've all congregated here just to hang out in a place where they're warmer because they don't handle the cold waters very well. And so we're in this unseasonably cold weather right now. They've all just come in here, and they've recently had more than 800 of these counted in here at a single time. So really spectacular sight. While the manatees were capturing our attention, we did still notice the birds as well. The most prominent were the numerous double-crested cormorants perched on snags above the clear water. Under the water, we could see several fish species, many of which weren't originally even native to Florida.
So in addition to all of the manatees in there, I'm loving seeing all these fish. You have a lot of non-native things, like there's tilapia in there, there's plecos in there, which I think can actually bother the manatees sometimes when they try to feed on the manatees. But it's just been incredible, and I think my favorite is the Florida gar, which is a new gar species for me, and there's also native long-nosed gar in there as well. So being able to see the fish congregate and hang out with the manatees and everything is just a full immersive experience. You have manatees, fish, and then we're also seeing some birds and hearing some birds in here. So I would definitely recommend this place. It is so cool.
We kept walking the path that ran alongside the water, spotting more types of fish and more manatees as well. Eventually, we ended up at the gift shop. We want to check out the manatee gift shop?
Oh yeah, I gotta check out the manatee gift shop.
We looked around the gift shop, and with a percentage of the proceeds going toward manatee conservation, we had to stock up on some gear. I just dropped like $100 on manatee apparel, but those little guys just tug at your heartstrings when you see them floating in there with those cute little faces.
Don't you think they're cuter in person?
They're way cuter in person. So much cuter than advertised. Having felt great about our manatee experience, we retraced our steps to get a few more looks at them before leaving. In the process, we spotted a few red-shouldered hawks, an eastern phoebe, and heard an owl species very at home in the southern forest.
We just heard a barred owl, and then a pileated woodpecker flew by. So there's a lot of bird activity. This habitat is just so cool and unique.
2 new state birds, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Eventually, we left Blue Spring feeling extremely pleased with our experience. I'd say that was pretty much exactly the experience we were hoping to have with manatees. We can finally check them off of the species of animals that we want to see but have not seen yet list. What a cool animal. They were way cuter in person. They had a little snout and kind of looked like a seal or a sea lion, which makes sense because they're both aquatic mammals. But they were floating around, not really doing a whole lot. Sometimes you'd see one push its tail up and down and really propel itself through the water, though. So they could get moving at a decent pace, but obviously not as fast as a lot of other marine creatures.
Yeah, what was awesome was to see the parents with the young. So you'd see a big one and a small one just kind of floating down. Just, not doing anything wrong. Just chilling. They're not harming anyone. They just want to live their little manatee lives.
Probably never done anything wrong.
Never done anything wrong to anyone, ever.
Just eat plants.
Yeah.
On our way back, we got word that a rare bird had happened to show up not too far away from where we were. We were on the way back from Blue Spring, and we found a report on eBird that there was a black-headed gull that was found at Cocoa Landfill. So apparently you can get into the landfill, and you have to go to the office, and they give you a vest, and you have to stay in a certain area. And it sounds like it's going to be really impossible for us today because it's 5:09 and it closes at 5:30. But we're gonna take a look at what's going on anyway because it was on the way back, and maybe we can get it, but more likely we would have to come back a different day. But we'll see what happens. It's also raining, which isn't ideal.
Yeah, this wasn't really a bird that was on our radar, but it'd be a really cool one to see in a lifer for both of us. But a pretty rare bird, so anywhere that you can find a black-headed gull would be good, but it just so happens to be where we are, so we're gonna give it a shot.
We made an attempt to get into the landfill, but since it would be closing soon, we were unable to do so, meaning we had to just wait and hope that the black-headed gull would stick around for at least one more day. It's rainy and it's dark now, so I think we're going to head back to the expo center for a little bit, just catch up with some of our friends there and kind of call it a night. We'll probably hang out at the hotel. There's actually a lot of stuff to do there, but mostly have a pretty chill evening after what was a pretty fun day seeing those Florida scrub jays and the manatees. It's hard to be upset when you have a day seeing those animals. We headed back to the convention center, caught up with some of our friends, and then called it an evening. On day 3 in Florida, we added one new life bird, the Florida scrub jay, as well as a new lifer mammal species. Having many days in Florida still left, there were still plenty of interesting birds to see, and Space Coast Birding Festival activities to enjoy. If you like this video, take a look at one of these Florida birding videos as well. And as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Badgerland Birding.